Part 69. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 681. Chapter 681, How to Place. What's more, they still have an unknown mission to save the continent. Without the strength, everything is out of the question. Xuanhuan waved to Xianxia, and Xianxia walked over. Xuanhuan pointed at the map and asked, "This is the scope of the inner city. How do you think it is appropriate to place the Black Feather Guards and the others?" Xianxia knew that these Black Feather Guards would become people who would serve his master openly when Xuanhuan said that he would turn from light to dark. He looked at the map carefully, pondered for a while and asked, "Does the master want to divide all the inner city territory, or keep part of it?" Xuanhuan said, "Leave some of it." He likes to leave some leeway in doing things. He doesn't know how long he will stay in Xuanhuan continent yet, but no matter how long he stays, he must make arrangements for these people. Even if they leave here in the future, they can survive well in Xuanhuan continent. He will not treat his own people badly. Xianxia frowned. "I think if you want to keep some of it, it's better to keep it all." Xuanhuan smiled when he heard this. Yanxiangluo's long eyelashes flickered, and she somewhat understood Xuanhuan's intention. He was testing Xianxia's decision-making ability. When they discussed it before, Xuanhuan said what the inner city would be used for, but he didn't say it would be for the Black Feather Guard family. It turned out to be a test of Xianxia. "Okay, let's do as you say." Xuanhuan gave the map to Xianxia. Xianxia's mouth twitched. He would be a fool if he didn't know his master's intention now. It was obvious that his master had already made a decision. He felt that since the inner city was so big, it was impossible to divide the territory evenly if a part of it was left. The distance between their family's residence and the palace was the distance between them and their master in the eyes of Black Feather Guards. It is better not to allow them to live in the inner city and open up territory for them outside. There is no difference between distance and distance. Zhijikong, the site in the inner city, is reserved for other purposes. Zhijikong stood up and walked out of the palace with Yanxiangluo. Xianxia glanced at the place where Gizmo was standing just now, and immediately walked behind Yanxiangluo and whispered, "Mistress, can you also open your eyes to me?" Yanxiangluo glanced at Xuanhuan. After all, he belonged to Xuanhuan and needed his consent. Xuanhuan nodded, and Yanxiangluo raised her hand and tapped Xianxia's eyebrows. Xianxia felt a wave of heat pouring into his eyebrows, and then he saw Gizmo walking aside. "Hurry and salute to show that he can see him." Gizmo also nodded and said nothing. Xianxia looked at Gizmo. "Is he the ancestor of the G family?" "That ancestor? Can he actually stay in his soul body for more than 30,000 years? Soon they left the palace. Xuanhuan glanced at Black Feather Guard and said, "Xuanhuan city is divided into an inner city and an outer city. The inner city is where you are standing now, and the outer city is where they are standing." Xuanhuan pointed to the people outside who couldn't get in. However, 30 to 30,000 years have passed, and there are no traces of the outer city at all. Black Feather Guards didn't move, not knowing what Xuanhuan meant. Black Feather Guards no longer need to hide in the dark. Each of your families will be given a piece of land outside. You can build your family residence there. Xianxia will tell you that you don't have to worry about safety issues. Xuanhuan, not everyone can enter the city, whether it is the outer city or the inner city. As for your responsibilities, Xianxia will also tell you. Xuanhuan's words were like a huge stone being thrown into the water, and the Black Feather Guards were all shocked. They never thought that Black Feather Guard could exist upright. After they all looked at each other, surprise burst out in their eyes. Who would want to hide in the dark if they could live on the bright side? It would be good to live in the outer city, at least the land is big. Their family has a lot of people, but the land is not big enough to live there. Yes, a uniform voice sounded. Xuanhuan glanced at the people outside and took out the human emperor token again, input his spiritual power and shouted, "Open." The final ban on Xuanhuan city has also been lifted. The human emperor ordered a ray of light to shoot out and fall on the edge of the barrier. Along the boundary of the barrier, after a trembling and sound of an earth dragon turning over, a city wall rose from the ground. Those standing outside who were close to the barrier, he almost pressed against the city wall and felt like his body was falling. Everyone exclaimed and stood up in the air and retreated. Then they saw a circle of extremely high city walls, with a tall and towering city gate tower in the middle. On the gate tower were 3 characters: Ninefold city with 3 dragons and phoenixes dancing in them. Obviously, this is the gate of the inner city of Xuanhuan city 30,000 years ago. The city wall extending out from the surrounding area is also very high, and there is a deep and wide ravine outside the city wall. This should be the former moat, but now there is not a drop of water in it. There are 9 stone arch bridges facing the city gate. The bridge in the middle is much wider than the other 4 bridges, and there is a complicated pattern carved in the middle. After everyone was amazed, they rushed over and wanted to enter the city through the city gate. But when they were flying in the air to the 9 bridges, they seemed to hit something, and they fell out one by one screaming. Obviously, the barrier was still there. Looking at the force with which they fell, they knew that the barrier's counterattack was still strong. Powerful. Everyone looked at the G family residence surrounded by city walls in astonishment and couldn't believe it. Could it be that the power left by the G family is so strong that 30,000 years have passed and it can still protect the city from being invaded? Many of them are strong men above the level, and even many are at the level of gods. They are not aware of how powerful this barrier is. Xianxia could clearly see what the people inside and outside were doing, and she was also curious, why is the city wall still there? I only saw ruins before, and the ruins were all cleaned up by Xuanhuan. Why did the city wall suddenly appear? But after the city wall was built, I felt that the palace was very safe. The city wall, the imperial palace and G garden are all integrated. They are all refined and made by my own hands. Although there is no memory of that life, Xuanhuan knew the origin of some objects as soon as they appeared. Xianxia opened her mouth and said clearly, "No wonder you are so talented in weapon refining. It turned out that you were a very powerful weapon refiner in the past." Xuanhuan touched his nose and said, "I don't think this was a difficult thing for me before." Although these words were not modest, he had such a feeling and knew that these things were really nothing to him in the past. Xianxia didn't feel that he was immodest at all, but nodded in agreement, "I think so too." Xuanhuan smiled, "Why is his Luoluo so cute?" Gizmo was speechless watching the interaction between the two of them complementing each other. Even if you are really talented, why don't you keep a low profile and not be so arrogant? End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 682. Chapter 682. How is it possible? However, why does he find their arrogance so pleasing to the eye? Looking at the palace again, Gizmo understood clearly that there was really no origin of this palace in his memory. People in the G family naturally believed that the palace was built by their ancestors. Who would have thought that this palace, including the G garden and the city walls, were all made by the man in front of him in his previous life? No wonder it is still there after more than 30,000 years. Look at the other buildings in Xuanhuan city at that time had long been destroyed. Even if the inner city was protected by the barrier, it had existed in ruins for so many years. Gizmo now knows the meaning of the last words his ancestor told him. If he follows Xuanhuan well, he will have unexpected opportunities and future in the future. In an instant, Gizmo's entire soul felt relaxed, and he was really looking forward to the days to come. Xianxia, first clearly allocate everyone's responsibilities. Black Feather Guards can notify the family leaders. Those who are willing to come can come and build a residence in the allocated area. The construction costs will be collected from Xianxia. Zhizhong looked at Wei. The wall of the city told what to do next. The people of Black Feather Guard were stunned. They thought that the family would have to bear all the expenses for building houses when the family members moved here. Unexpectedly, Zhizhong actually paid for the construction for them. Could it be that he was so rich, or that the Ji family had left a lot of money behind? Great wealth. Thank you, master. No matter what they were thinking, they quickly thanked him. Even if the wealth left by the Ji family is given to them, it can only be decided by Zhizhong. Jizimo was shocked. He had been following him these days, and he was very sure that Zhizhong had not obtained any Ji family treasures at all. Where did the confidence for his words come from? After receiving the order, Xian took the map and went to divide the territory for the Black Feather Guards. Yanziongloo asked in a low voice, "Will all their families come?" Zhizhong raised the corners of his lips and said, "Everyone will come." Zhizhong's understanding and control of people's hearts has reached a certain level. It can be said that even if they don't speak, he can know what they are thinking just by looking at their expressions and breaths. Although the remaining Black Feather Guards are bound by the oath-binding force and the ancestral precepts passed down by their ancestors, they actually still have a gambling element in their hearts. Their family has been hiding their strength and living a low-key life for more than 30,000 years. But they feel that such a low-key life is very aggrieved due to their own strength, but there are powerful forces everywhere on the mainland. Even if they leave now and want their family to rise, it will not be easy. Now that I have given them an opportunity to rise immediately, how could they give up? As long as a family comes to Xuanhuan city, it will become the focus of mainland forces. With so many families together, no force dares to take action against them. Therefore, they will rise under the watchful eyes of the entire mainland. And they don't have to spend any money, all the money comes from Zhizhong. After listening to Zhizhong's words, Yanziongloo also understood the interests involved. Sighing, he thought to himself, how can there be such a pure relationship based solely on loyalty and emotion in this world? Even if Xian and the others have been following Zhizhong, wasn't it because they were young and didn't have the right to choose when they made the choice? Loyalty is first of all because of the binding force of the oath, and secondly because Zhizhong has conquered them with his personal strength and wisdom over the years. They have benefited a lot from following Zhizhong. Who wouldn't want to follow such a master? Yanziongloo has no doubt that the Black Feather Guards will only become more and more loyal in the future. Zhizhong took Yanziongloo's hand and walked to the palace. There were still many things to do. He also had to go to the most powerful secret realm in the mainland. He didn't have much time. He never messed up his plans, so he had to seize the time. Outside Xuanhuan city, when Xianxia arrived with his wife and children, it was when the wall of Xuanhuan city was rising. No matter how calm he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Xuanhuan was also shocked by the scene in front of her. Is her future brother-in-law so powerful? So when will he go beyond protecting his sister? Xuanhuan was hit as soon as she arrived at Xuanhuan city. Dad, how do we get in? Although Xuanhuan was shocked, she still wanted to see her sister eagerly. Xianxia glanced at the dense crowd and said, "Wait and see." He couldn't ask in front of everyone if he could go in to see his daughter. This was not the time to expose their relationship. He would decide what to do next after seeing his daughter and discussing with his son-in-law. Longmoran patted his son and said, "Anur, don't worry, we have to put your sister's safety first. Even if we can't help her, at least we shouldn't become a burden to him." Xuanhuan nodded, "Mom, I understand, but we are not strong enough." Longmoran glanced at her husband and sighed secretly in her heart. It's just that the two of them are not strong enough. Her husband is always like a proud man wherever he is. Over the years, I have been dragging him down. Originally, I was dragging him down, but then I had a daughter, and then I had a son. If he hadn't met me, my husband's path would have been much easier than it is now. Just when the 9UN city wall was erected, the restrictions around the G family's residence were completely lifted. Although the protective barrier is still there, the prohibition has disappeared, and some of the breath of isolation from the heaven will escape. In a snow-white palace suspended in the clouds in the 9 heavens, several figures instantly appeared in front of a huge white crystal ball. This white crystal ball is 10 meters high. In front of the crystal ball, it looks like an ant. The crystal ball exuded a mysterious power. This power made them dare not move forward. They could only stand 10 meters away from the stone platform of the crystal ball. Seeing the crystal clear purple beads displayed on the crystal ball, several people said in unison, "The divine beads have appeared." After saying this, everyone looked at the man standing in front of them wearing a snow-white brocade robe and standing with his hands behind his back. Where did the divine pearl appear? The man looked uncertainly and shook his head. Not in the 9 heavens continent. What? Everyone looked at the man in shock. Then he said clearly, "It seems that the news that the divine beads fell to the lower continent is true." "Can you find out which continent it is on?" another person asked. The man in white robe shook his head again. "It just shows that the divine bead has appeared. If you want to know where the divine bead is, you need to wait until the person who gets the divine bead uses the power of the divine bead to know. Since it has appeared, we must prepare quickly." After hearing his words, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The man in white robe withdrew his gaze from the huge white crystal ball, glanced at them and said, "The divine beads should have been refined." "How is that possible?" Everyone looked at the man in disbelief. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 683. Chapter 683. Seeing Mom and Dad want to refine the beads, their pride of the heavenly heaven has not done it. If it is true, it does not mean that the people in the 9 heavens are all trash. They absolutely do not believe that people from lower continents can refine divine beads. The man in white robe nodded firmly. "You have forgotten that the divine pearl can only be crystal clear when it is refined." Everyone fell silent. Looking at the crystal clear purple beads, they had to admit that the divine beads they had seen were not like this. They were very dark purple and looked chaotic. The divine beads today are indeed crystal clear and appear to have been refined. Although they have never seen what the refined divine beads look like, the legend is like this. The huge white crystal ball in front of you was originally refined to detect the breath of the divine bead. Such a large crystal ball, the only one in the entire Xianxia. It is the only flawless white crystal ore found in the only white crystal vein found in the Xianxian continent. At that time, it took a lot of effort and manpower to mine it. Later, hundreds of god-level weapon refiners, 10 heavenly masters, 10 Xuanhuan masters, and hundreds of formation masters joined forces to refine the white prediction crystal ball in front of them, which is said to be able to communicate with the will of heaven. However, such a powerful crystal ball can only be viewed when the divine bead is exposed. For tens of thousands of years, this crystal ball has been used to predict major events in the 9 heavens, and it has never been missed. This crystal ball was refined by the strength of the entire continent. After the last time I heard that the man and woman who owned the divine bead threw the divine bead down to the 9th heaven under the evergreen tree. It is said that the man and woman also died in love. They were not sure at the time. After all, everyone present died and no one survived. Now it seems that this is true. What should we do now? They have been waiting for tens of thousands of years, but they did not expect this result. If the divine bead has been refined, it means that it has recognized its owner. It will not be easy for them to get the owner's divine bead. There is no good way. We can only wait for him to use the divine bead, and then use the power of the crystal ball to find his location, the man in white robe said calmly. The others were speechless after hearing what he said. They knew that the man in front of them was already the highest cultivated person among the 9 heavenly masters. He had no other choice, and the others had no choice. Now we can only wait. Several people looked up at the purple beads suspended in the crystal ball, with different expressions in their eyes. No one knew what the other person was thinking, but one thing they all knew was that everyone wanted to get the divine beads. After several people left, the man in white robe raised his hand, and the power of the heavenly master was integrated into the crystal ball. Light surged in the crystal ball, but the purple beads remained suspended motionless, and no other images appeared in the crystal ball. He frowned, but still couldn't see the location of the divine bead. What I said just now was just to deal with a few of them. If I really had to wait until that person used the divine bead to find the location of the divine bead, it would be too late. The divine bead is just a contract and he can still take it away. If the other party has already used the power of the divine bead, it means that the divine bead has been fused with the other party's soul. At that time, if you want to take the divine bead away, even if you kill the other party, it is impossible. The divine bead will disappear immediately upon the owner's death, until its owner reincarnates again and has the opportunity to encounter the divine bead and awaken the divine bead again. They still have a chance to get the divine pearl before its owner refines it again. But once the divine beads disappear, where will they go to find them? How could they know where the owner of the divine bead was reborn? His celestial master cultivation level is already the strongest in the 9 heavens, and he thinks that there is nothing he can't predict. However, the divine pearl and its owner are the only exceptions, and he really can't predict it. Things are already very difficult now. Do we have to use that method? He really doesn't want to use it unless he has to, because the cost is too high. At this time, in Xuanhuan city, Zhizhong refined several majestic houses and placed them near the city gate. These houses are used by the black feather guards to do business, and each house is responsible for different things. After Xianxia divided the territory among them, all the black feather guards notified their respective tribesmen, and then began to perform their respective duties and get busy. Xianxia didn't want to tire himself to death. After following Zhizhong for so many years, he had become proficient in transferring people and arranging things. He had divided the black feather guard into several parts, each performing its own duties. He only needed to control the overall situation. All right. Zhizhong has told Xianxia about the plan of the inner city, and the rest is what needs to be done. Xianxia arranges people clearly and does the things arranged by his master in the shortest possible time. This has always been his pursuit. Xuanhuan was busy in the courtyard of the palace. After the restriction was completely opened, Xuanhuan city finally had the breath of life. Xuanhuan was fine now. She couldn't help with other things, so she took care of the yard herself. Just plan out where you want to plant them piece by piece, and then leave it to Xianxia to do it. She is planning to go back to Xiangyang city. They are not suitable to live in Xiangyang city now. She plans to bring everyone here when she goes back. There is safety here. Xianxia told her before that Qihao was sent back to Xiangyang city by him. She was not worried about Qihao's safety, but worried about her parents finding her. By now, the news that she and Zhizhong were together should have spread throughout the continent. Her parents would definitely come if they knew the news. She stood up when she thought of this, and suddenly she had the feeling that her parents were outside the city. He jumped up, landed on the roof of the palace, and looked outside the city gate. This feeling used to be her sixth sense, but now she knows that it is the feeling of the Celestial Master's power. Although the Celestial Master cannot predict her own destiny, she can sense things about herself. There are so many people outside that it would be impossible for others to find the person they are looking for at a glance among the crowd. But it was extremely easy here for Yanxiangluo. She followed her feeling and looked in one direction, and saw her parents standing behind the crowd. Yan Xiangleo was so excited that she wanted to fly out immediately and go to them, but the joy on her face disappeared in an instant. Because she saw her mother holding a little boy in her hand. Even though the distance was far away, it was not difficult for her to see a person's face clearly with her cultivation. Because she could see clearly, her heart sank. Because the little boy looked about 6 or 7 years old, and his appearance was like seeing himself when he was a child, especially his big round eyes, which were exactly the same as hers. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 684. He didn't need to think too much about such an appearance. She knew that he was her parents' child, her brother. In the more than 6 years since she was separated from her parents, there were other children around her. She never thought that one day she would see her parents in such a situation. She is no longer the only child of her parents, and they have been separated for more than 6 years, but this younger brother has been living with them. For a moment, Yan Xiangleo felt an indescribable sense of loss in her heart, as if something belonging to her had quietly slipped away. She just stood on the roof of the palace, looking at the family of 3 from a distance, as if she was the extra one. At this time, she was not sure why they had not come to her. From a distance, he saw her mother leaning weakly on her father, and her father kept holding his mother's waist with his hands. They are still as loving as before, and their appearance has not changed much. If there is any change, it is that they have the atmosphere of vicissitudes of life. When Xuanhuan came back, he saw the person standing on the roof of the palace at a glance. Sensing that she was not in a good mood, Xuanhuan jumped up and landed next to her. "Luoluo, what's wrong?" Yan Xiangleo turned around and said, "I saw my parents." Xuanhuan was stunned and looked outside, but he was not as capable as Sun Xiangleo and could not find Sun Qianzhai and the others among so many people. "Isn't this a happy thing? Why do you seem so depressed?" Yan Xiangleo added, "They have another child, a boy." Xuanhuan was startled, and then he understood why she was in a bad mood, and hugged her into his arms. "Isn't this a good thing? Luo has a younger brother. From now on, more people will love you and protect you." Tong Xiang fell into a meal. Is this that? The soul has lived in 2 lives, and she was both an only child. Now she is 16 years old, and suddenly she was told that she had a younger brother. She couldn't accept the thought that her parents loved him too, and even loved him more than she loved herself. Xuanhuan knew why she was in a bad mood. Luo, brothers and sisters are also fate. Good fate comes. You will support and rely on each other in this life. That is another kind of feeling. At least you are sisters from the same generation. Brother, look at me, I have many brothers, but they are not from the same mother. No one really likes me. Luoluo is much happier than me. Xuanhuan's identity, Yan Xiangleo, is naturally very clear. Indeed, he has many brothers, but all of them wish he had never been born. After all, my younger brother and I have the same father and mother, and their relationship should be good, but that requires them to grow up together. Now that my younger brother is so old, is it too late to cultivate a relationship? Aren't parents partial to others? Xuanhuan patted her on the back and said, "I'll have someone bring them in." Yan Xiangleo moved. Although she was a little unsure whether she could control her emotions, she still wanted to see her parents since they were here. To be honest, she really missed her parents. Although she is only 16 years old, she is already at that age and is considered an adult here. As long as he does not go too far, she will not compete with her brother for his favor. After all, she had enjoyed exclusive love from her parents for 10 years, and their love for her was not fake. Thinking of this, Yan Xiangleo felt much better instantly. "Yes," she responded in a low voice. Xuanhuan hugged her waist and descended from the ridge of the palace, called Changfeng, gave some instructions, and Changfeng went out. From yesterday to today, Gizmo has been silently watching every move of the two of them. He discovered that among the two, Hong was the one who took the initiative. When dealing with things, Hong was a very indifferent person, and he only treated me when the fragrance falls, his tenderness will be revealed. He was confused. Shouldn't a man like Hong with outstanding appearance, talent, and cultivation level be chased by women to please him? Why was he in such a miserable state, chasing after women all the time? Are you still catching up from the last life to this one? Yan Xiangloo sat on the steps at the door of the palace, looking at the door of the palace. Hong also sat beside her, accompanying her. She didn't speak, and he didn't speak either, just staying with her silently. Hong knew that she had not seen her parents in more than 6 years, and with the sudden appearance of a younger brother, it was understandable that she could not change her mood. Sensing that Chang Feng was coming with someone, Hong whispered, "Luoluo is luckier than me. I don't think I have a chance to see my parents." Yan Xiangluo's heart trembled. Hong's mother died in childbirth when he was born. His father also died when he was 6 years old. Indeed, he could not see him even if he wanted to. I am lucky enough to be able to see my parents, so why bother? If they can't see each other all the time, having a younger brother to accompany them on her behalf is what she hopes for most. Now that their family has grown from 3 to 4, she should feel happier. After all, she has another blood relative. Hong instantly connected with her with just one word, and the only discomfort in her heart disappeared. At this time, Chang Feng led Guan Chenjai, Long Moran, and Guan Anluo into the courtyard door. Yan Xiangluo stood up immediately. Chenjai stopped at the door and looked at the beautiful girl in a red dress standing on the steps of the palace, and his eyes suddenly became hot. When he left, his daughter was still a little girl, and she would still act like a baby in his arms. Now, the slim girl in front of him no longer had the softness she had when she was a child. Perhaps it was because she had gone through too many ups and downs. Just 2 levels of Pangyuhua blooming were enough to make her lose her innocence as a child. What's more, he could imagine his daughter's situation in the Tianshan Empire after their husband and wife left. How difficult would it be? How could I not feel distressed? Long Moran could no longer control his face and burst into tears, sobbing so hard. Only the child Ruan Anluo stared blankly at the girl in the red dress flying on the steps. She was his sister. Needless to say, he also knew that his parents had said since he was a child that he looked very similar to his sister, but her sister was even taller than him. He is good looking, but he is not convinced every time he looks in the mirror. He can't find anything unsightly about his face no matter how he looks at it. How much more beautiful can his sister be than him? Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he suddenly understood that it was not that his sister's appearance was better than his, but that her temperament was so outstanding. With just one glance, he felt that the fairies in Zhongtian were not as good looking as his sister. The more Wan Anluo looked at it, the more he liked it. This was his sister, and he was the only one who had such a powerful and beautiful sister. The excited child Ruan Anluo didn't even notice that her parents were in a bad mood. She let go of her mother's hand and ran towards Ruan Xiangluo, shouting as she ran, "Sister, I am Anan." The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 685. Chapter 685 Fainted. The sun's movements suddenly woke up the couple, Yan Chenjai and his wife. They just wanted to hold their son back because their son's speed was too fast. When they came to their senses, their son had already rushed out far away. Both husband and wife looked at their daughter worriedly, fearing that her daughter would be unhappy. After all, my daughter doesn't know that she has a younger brother. It's been more than 6 years, and a younger brother pops up as soon as they meet. Can she accept it? When Ruan Xiangluo and Ruan Anluo ran over, her eyes finally changed. Looking at her younger brother who shared the same face with her and running towards her happily, She realized that her younger brother had always known about her existence and liked her very much. To be so excited when meeting him for the first time, it must be that his parents often talked to him about his sister. The thought lasted only a moment, and his waist was hugged by his younger brother, who ran over. Xianxia looked down at the boy hugging her waist, looking up at her with a smile. This was his younger brother, who had the same bloodline as him. "Sister, I finally see you." Xuanhuan's tone was full of joy. "I am Anan, your brother, and you are my sister. Sister, you are so amazing and good looking. My parents say you are prettier than me, and now I also think you are prettier than me." Xianxia mouth twitched. "Is this my brother still a talkative? Are you so familiar? My parents are not of this temperament, so how come I gave birth to a talkative younger brother?" She didn't know that her younger brother had lived with his parents in an isolated snowy mountain for 3 years. The life of a family of 3 was usually very peaceful, and he didn't talk so much. Xianxia raised her hand and rubbed his head. "I am your sister, my name is Xianxia. My brother's hair is soft, and comfortable to touch." Sister touched his head. She liked him. Xuanhuan was in a good mood. She showed a row of white teeth and said, "I am your brother. My name is Xuanhuan. And settlement?" Her younger brother actually followed her and called her Lozi, and also called Anzi. Is this what she thought? Dad said that he and his mother could not grow up with their sister and wanted her to be safe, so they named me, and Dad said that he hoped that their Lugo would be safe. The child Xuanhuan explained the origin of his name. After finishing his words, he added, "I also hope my sister is safe. I like this name very much." Xianxia's eyes suddenly became wet. She put her arms around her younger brother and looked at her parents, who were still standing at the door without daring to take another step. She finally couldn't help it anymore. "Dad, Mother." Xianxia raised his head and tried to open his eyes, but he had to hold back the tears that were about to fall out. Long Moran could no longer stand still and fell down instantly. Xianxia's eyes changed. Only then did she realize that something was wrong with her mother. Why was her health so bad? She pulled away her brother's hand and rushed over. "Mother!" Xianxia's voice changed. Xuanhuan also ran over quickly. "Dad, what's wrong with my mother?" Xianxialuo asked anxiously, looking at her mother, who was caught by her father and held in his arms. Xianxia quickly comforted his daughter and said, "Your mother is too excited and will wake up later." Xianxialuo didn't believe it at all. She was a miracle doctor. "Don't you know?" She immediately reached out and wiped her mother's pulse. Xianxia sighed. He had no intention of letting his daughter know about his wife's condition as soon as they met. Although he knew that he couldn't hide it for long, it was better than scaring his daughter when the family was reunited. His daughter is a miracle doctor, and she has only been there for more than 6 years. He doesn't know how her daughter learned this medical skill, but since her reputation as a miracle doctor can be heard throughout the continent, her daughter's medical skills are already the best in the continent. There is nothing he can do about his wife's health. Now he can only see if his daughter can do anything. Xianxialuo was so nervous for the first time when seeing a doctor. She understood that this was because the sick person was her closest blood relative, her mother, who gave birth to her. Xuanhuan squatted aside quietly, watching her sister check her mother's pulse. As far as he could remember, his mother's body had been like this, and it was getting worse. Although his father didn't say it, he also knew that even even though my father had found all these precious medicinal materials, my mother was not cured, which meant that my mother's health had reached its worst state. He was very worried, but he had no choice but to meet his sister now. She is a miracle doctor and she will definitely cure her mother. Ji Zhong didn't expect this. When Xianxialuo rushed over, he also came over and stood aside to watch Luo take her pulse. Even if he didn't have medical skills, he could still see that his mother-in-law's health was already in a bad state. Gizmo floated over, glanced at Long Moran, frowned, and shook his head. This man was dying and it was unlikely that he would wake up. Yanxiangluo's heart sank to the bottom after feeling her pulse. She finally understood why her parents didn't go to find her immediately. My mother's body cannot be moved at all. It seems that my parents have been living in the snowy mountains. Her mother has too much snow lotus in her body, and she takes fresh snow lotus. If it weren't for these snow lotuses nourishing her body, she would have died long ago. Furthermore, her mother's body still has cloud grass. Not to mention how rare cloud grass is, even the function of cloud grass shows that her mother's body is now struggling to hold on. If she wasn't emotionally excited, she could still hold herself up, but the mood swings were too high, which made her get sick again early. She said nothing, and immediately took out the silver needles, and 3 silver needles were directly inserted into 3 acupuncture points on her head. In a moment, Long Moran woke up. Gizmo was extremely shocked. Is her medical skill so high? With just 3 injections, a person who was already dead actually woke up. Just as Long Moran was about to speak, Yanxiangluo spoke first. Mom, control your emotions. If you faint again, I won't be able to save you. Do you want to have a funeral just after our family is reunited? What her daughter said was very serious, but Long Ranmo knew her physical condition, so she immediately shut up, closed her eyes, and tried her best to suppress her excitement. After a while, she felt more comfortable. Only then did Yanxiangluo pull out the silver needle. What she just said was not to scare people, it was true. If her mother fainted again, there was really nothing she could do. Because, it was not fainting, but passing away. Zhuzhong, find an empty palace. I want to treat my mother first. I can't wait for a moment. Yanxiangluo raised her head and said to Ji Zhuzhong. Ji Zhuzhong immediately asked, what kind of palace is needed? Luoluo didn't let her mother into the bedroom, not because she felt it was inappropriate, but because the bedroom did not meet the conditions for her treatment. It's more open, it's best if there's nothing inside, Yanxiangluo said. Ji Zhuzhong immediately looked at Gizmo. No one in the palace knew it better than Gizmo. Gizmo immediately pointed to the east and said, there is a palace there that used to be a school for the prince when he was a child. There is nothing in it except tables and chairs. Ji Zhuzhong immediately said, can I trouble Ancestor Zemo to take us there? End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 686. Chapter 686 Father-in-Law. Since Luoluo said there should be no delay, no time should be wasted. Gizmo could lead the way to find the palace the fastest. Follow me. Gizmo immediately drifted to the east. Wan Chenjai and Wan Anluo and his son were both stunned. They could only hear Ji Zhuzhong's words, but not Gizmo's words, and no one could be seen. It is impossible for Ji Zhuzhong to talk to the air, that is the soul body. Wan Chenjai understood it instantly, and Wan Anluo understood it after thinking about it. He had seen his mother talking to the air like this before, and later her mother said that she was communicating with the soul body. There is actually a soul body here, and he is called an ancestor by his brother-in-law. He should be a very powerful soul body. Although Long Moran is not in good health, she is also a heavenly master. Although she cannot exert much power now due to her physical condition, in any case, she used to be the strongest soul-controlling person in the Long family. She can separate the soul and send it to another world. Her talent is it was not ordinary, so as soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Gizmo. Hence, she was not surprised that Ji Zhuzhong spoke to Gizmo, but she was a little surprised how the soul body could exist for so many years. The Ji family has been destroyed for more than 30,000 years, which is not an ordinary period of time. Dad, come here with your mother in your arms. Yan Xianglou stood up and said to her father. Yu Chenjai quickly picked up his wife and followed him. Yan Xianglou said to Chang Feng, take care of my brother. Chang Feng immediately said, Madam, don't worry, I will take good care of young master. This is the master's brother-in-law. He will take good care of her without needing to be told by Yan Xianglou. Wan Anluo tugged on Yan Xiangluo's sleeve, Sister, I'm going too. He was worried about his mother and didn't want to stay. Yan Xiangluo looked at her younger brother and saw the uneasiness in his eyes. Knowing that he was worried about her mother, she said, come along. Just don't affect my sister's treatment of my mother. Okay, I won't affect you. I'll just stay with my sister and parents, Wan Anluo assured her immediately. Yan Xianglou rubbed his head and said, Anan is very good. Wan Anluo's eyes suddenly lit up. His sister praised him. He was a good little brother and her sister liked him. Led by Gizmo, the group quickly arrived at a palace in the east. Indeed, as Gizmo said, there was nothing inside except tables and chairs. Gizmo also studied here. When he saw this place again, the scene where he had studied with his brothers and sisters flashed before his eyes, and he felt sad. He didn't go in. After Yang Xiang fell in, she put the two tables together and said to her father, Dad, put your mother on top, and you all can get out. Yu Chenjai was stunned, don't you need me to help you inside? Yan Xianglou said, Mom is not only in poor health, but also has injuries to her soul and body. None of you can help. Wan Anluo said, Sister, I can help. In fact, he also awakened the soul-controlling power of the Long family. However, due to his health, his mother banned the use of the soul-controlling power. However, he is very sensitive and may be able to help his sister. When Yan Xianglou saw her younger brother, she knew that he also had physical problems and that his power to control souls was blocked. She now understood that her father's life had not been easy in the past 6 years. With a wife and children in poor health, and with my daughter still to worry about, I may never have a comfortable day. Yan Xianglou rubbed her brother's head, Anan and Dad are waiting outside. If you need your sister, I'll ask you to come in, okay? Yan Anluo knew that she couldn't help, and her sister was very kind and didn't refuse directly. He immediately said, okay. Since he can't help, he can't cause trouble for his sister. It's more important to save his mother. Since everyone is out, stand outside the door and look inside. Long Moran is very aware of her physical problems, the most important of which is the problem of her soul and body. This problem cannot be solved by the Tianqi's husband, nor can she save herself, so she has never said anything about it. Looking at her daughter, she asked seriously, will it hurt you? Yan Xianglou shook her head, it won't hurt. Although my mother's soul was seriously injured, there was a solution in the Long family's empty soul method that she practiced. Worried that her mother would think she was reluctant, she explained, what I practice is not the power of soul control that everyone in the Long family practices. I open the box of inheritance of the Long family's skills and practice the inherited power of soul control. Long Moran was stunned for a moment, then felt relieved and nodded. The box in the Long family contains the inheritance of the real soul-controlling technique of the Long family. Now that her daughter has opened the box and has become a high-level heavenly master, she is really relieved. Mom, I will use silver needles to seal several of your acupuncture points first to ensure that your physical condition will not worsen. After healing the soul body, I will heal the body. If Mom feels sleepy, just sleep peacefully and everything will be fine when you wake up. Okay. Yan Xianglou took out the silver needle and said to her mother. During the process of healing the soul, you will feel comfortable and then sleepy. There is no danger in sleeping at this time. On the contrary, it will allow the soul to recover better. Long Moran nodded, Mom, I understand, You can do it without any worries. She is a heavenly master herself, so she naturally knows that healing the soul will make her feel comfortable, and it is a good thing for her to get some sleep. Over the years, she was afraid every time she felt sleepy, fearing that she would never wake up. This was the first time that she felt that falling asleep was not a scary thing. Xianxia's slender hands danced rapidly, and Long Moran didn't even feel that a dozen silver needles landed on her body. Immediately, Xianxiang raised his hands and spread out his soul-controlling power, wrapping up Long Moran's entire body. Jizhong, Changfeng, and Jizimo, who had opened their heavenly eyes, could clearly see, Long Moran's soul left her body in a lying position, floating in front of Xianxiang. At this time, Long Moran had closed his eyes and fell asleep. When the soul leaves the body will naturally be unable to maintain a normal awake state. Xianxiang didn't explain it clearly to her mother, because she was worried that she wouldn't be able to accept it, and her mood would fluctuate too much, which would affect the separation of her soul and body. Her mother should be in a deep sleep now, so that she can safely heal her soul body, and after she sleeps like this, it will indeed be of great benefit to the recovery of her body and soul body. Xianxiang used the power of soul control to support her mother's soul body, and then began to heal. Since everyone was standing quietly outside the door, they didn't even dare to breathe hard for fear of affecting Xianxiang's treatment. Wan Anluo held her little hands tightly, believing in his heart that his sister was very powerful and would be able to cure his mother, but he was also worried that his sister would be injured because of this, and he was very conflicted. Yu Chenjai knew his daughter well. Since she had done it, she must be sure of it. He looked at Jizhong and asked, "How do you know each other?" Jizhong's heart sank. How could he describe the process of getting to know Luoluo? It seems that no matter what you say, your father-in-law will be dissatisfied. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 687. Chapter 687 Healing Mother. Did it start when his brother the Emperor granted him a marriage in order to humiliate him, or when the two of them broke off the engagement when they first met? Jizhong felt that things were a bit tricky for the first time. No wonder they all called his father-in-law father-in-law. It felt like meeting an adult. After thinking about it, Jizhong decided to tell the truth. From the time when he was granted a marriage by his brother, the Emperor, to the first time the two met, the engagement was broken off by Xianxiang, and then fate dictated that they met again and again, and then the two fell in love and came to the higher continent together, and so on. Yu Chenjai never said anything. If he did speak, it would be to ask about his daughter's life in Tianqian continent these years. Jizhong also told everything he knew. He didn't say anything about Pangu space. It was up to Luoluo himself to say whether he wanted to. He respected Luoluo's opinion. As for whether his father-in-law would be dissatisfied because he did not take care of Luoluo after their previous engagement and caused her to suffer so much, he accepted his fate. Anyway, punishment was acceptable, but separation was definitely not acceptable. Ruan Anluo kept listening with open ears. The more she listened, the more dissatisfied she became with this brother-in-law. How could he turn a blind eye to his sister? After being engaged for more than 3 years, he had never seen his sister. She was even called sister-in-law by people in the Tianshan Empire. Being a waste, he didn't even help his sister. He doesn't want this brother-in-law. But he also knew that since his father was here and he was not qualified to speak, he could only sulk and give Jizhong a blank look. How could Jizhong not see his brother-in-law's dislike of him? He thought to himself, I had persuaded your sister to say good things for you before, but you did this to me? But it's just a child, just coax him. He didn't know that his brother-in-law was not easy to coax. Now Jizhong wants to know what his father-in-law thinks even more. He doesn't want to embarrass Luoluo. At this time, Yan Xianglou finished healing the soul and shouted outside, "Dad, please come in and help me." "Here we come." Yan Chenjai immediately responded and walked in. At this time, Yan Xianglou used her soul power to send her mother's soul body back into her body. When Yan Chenjai came over, he found that his wife's breathing was stable and her complexion was much better. Sure enough, the biggest injury comes from the soul body. It was then that he realized that the reason why his wife's health was still getting worse and worse after so many years of searching for precious medicinal materials was that her soul and body were too seriously injured. He never knew when his wife's soul and body were so seriously injured. He always thought that he was a qualified husband, but now it seems that he was not careful enough. He really didn't think of this before. After all, his wife was the heavenly master, and he never thought that his wife's soul and body would be hurt. He also understood why his wife hid it from him, and there was nothing she could do about it. It would only make him more worried. When the soul is injured, even if they can ask a heavenly master who is capable of healing, they will not trust him to heal him. After all, there are too many things that can be done in the healing process. What's more, they haven't found such a powerful celestial master. It was natural for their daughter to treat them. She had never thought of helping him to save his wife as a daughter. "Dad, please help me take off Mom's upper body clothes, then support Mom and let her lie on her side. I want to apply acupuncture on her chest and back. It must be done in one breath, and then it takes a stick of incense." While speaking, he turned around to remind Jizhong to close the door. Jizhong immediately raised his hand and closed the door. Wan Enluo wanted to go in, but Jizhong grabbed him. "Don't go in and disturb your sister." Humphrey Enluo snorted dissatisfiedly, but she didn't make any fuss about going in. Jizhong thought to himself, "Although my brother-in-law has a little temper, he is still very obedient. Fortunately, he has good rules. His daughter and son have been taught well by his father-in-law." After the door was closed, Yu Xianglou began to set up the formation. Only then did Yu Chenjai understand why his daughter was looking for an empty palace and still needed to set up the formation. He was surprised, and at the same time an idea came to him. It is not easy to be a miracle doctor. People who can make elixirs and understand medical skills will be fine. This requires not only the power to control souls, but also formations. He doesn't know yet at this time, and it's not just that. When his daughter was setting up the formation, Chenjai quickly took off his wife's clothes and laid them directly under her body. Since his daughter didn't let him lay down the bedding, there must be a reason. He would do whatever his daughter said. Just after he was ready, he helped his wife lie down on her side, and saw his daughter pulling out her mother's clothes and carving mysterious patterns on the table. Yu Chenjai was stunned for a moment. His daughter was actually a Xuanhuan master? Oh my god! Although Chenjai always knew that his daughter was born extraordinary, otherwise his wife would not have divided her daughter's soul into two parts and lived in two worlds, but he never expected that during the 6 years of separation. How did my daughter manage to practice without delay, remain so strong in medicine and alchemy, and not fall behind in formations, and still become a Xuanhuan master? It takes a lot of time to learn any of these things. How incredible is your daughter's talent? No matter how calm he was, at this moment, he was frightened by his daughter's strength and ability. Jizhong didn't say that his daughter also learned Xuanhuan. However, at this time, he could not ask anything. He could only cooperate with his daughter and do whatever she asked. I understand why my daughter left her wife lying on the table with nothing spread. It turned out that she wanted to carve mysterious patterns on it. After Yan Xiang finished carving the pattern, he started to apply acupuncture on her mother. Yan Chenjai watched the whole process and felt that his daughter's hands were simply magical. How could she be so dexterous? After the acupuncture, Yan Xianglou waited quietly aside, taking her mother's pulse in about a quarter of an hour to confirm her physical condition. Yu Chenjai remained in this posture without moving. After the acupuncture was completed, Yan Xianglou began to carve mysterious patterns on the formation she had laid out. What she set up was a spirit-gathering formation. If she wanted to heal patients, why did she need to set up an formation with mysterious patterns? The main reason is that although her mother, Long Moran, has been ill, she has been practicing for the past 6 years, and her cultivation and soul power have been improving. Otherwise, she would not have been able to survive for so many years with medicine alone. Although the effect of cultivation is not at all due to physical reasons, it does not mean that there is really no effect. When her soul and body are restored, the effects of her cultivation will be apparent. After 6 years of training, both her cultivation level and her soul controlling power will increase dramatically in an instant. Not only does she need rich spiritual energy to help her break through her cultivation level and advance, but she also needs a quiet environment to allow her soul controlling power to advance. This is the territory of the G family. The spiritual energy itself is very rich, but it is still not enough for promotion, so she set up a spirit gathering array. In order to ensure that the power of controlling souls could break through, she carved the mysterious lines of isolation on the formation. And the mysterious pattern carved on the table under her mother's body is the soul melting pattern. As the name suggests, the soul melting pattern fuses the body and soul. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 688. Chapter 688, Getting Used to Being Surprised. While Yan Xianglou was treating her mother's physical ailments, she allowed her soul and body to better integrate. After all, in order to heal her soul body, she let it leave the body, and it would be different what she would do if she returned. Yan Xianglou didn't want to leave any regrets. Her mother is also a celestial master. If the treatment is good this time, her mother's celestial master level will be improved. For their family, the higher the strength, the more secure they will be. Time passed little by little. The time it takes to burn an incense stick is not long, but it seems very long at this time. Yan Xianglou checked her mother's pulse 3 times. The third time she took the pulse was still a quarter of an hour before the needle was started. She began to take out the medicinal materials and place them one by one on another table. There were so many medicinal materials that they filled 2 long tables. Yan Xianglou checked the medicinal materials again. She didn't want to make any mistakes when refining the elixir for her mother. Although she didn't make any mistakes, she still checked the ingredients. After all the medicinal materials were correct, she turned to her father and said, "Dad, I will refine the recovery elixir for my mother. Black water will come out from where my mother has the needle later. Don't move and let the black water flow out naturally. Dad doesn't want it if you touch the black water with your skin. The black water flowing onto the table can be brought to the ground with your spiritual power." Xianxia nodded, "Okay, don't worry Luo, Dad is watching. You can concentrate on refining the elixir." Yan Xianglou knew that her father was a man who doted on his wife to excess, and he would not be distracted at all when it came to his wife's affairs. Turning her head, she glanced at the medicinal materials. With a thought, the stone nest came out and floated in front of her. She threw all the medicinal materials in, leaving only one. Xianxia looked at his daughter's movements. In order to save his wife these years, he could say that he had taken all the medicinal materials, especially rare medicinal materials. Xianxia knew that the medicinal material left behind by his daughter was the cloud grass he found to revive his wife this time. The cloud grass he found was not easy, and his daughter actually took out one directly. He realized that he no longer understood his daughter. "I feel a little sad because my daughter has grown up without him around after all." Xianglou didn't know her father's sorrowful mood, so she started to make elixirs with familiarity. What she wants to refine is a god-level elixir, and she wants to refine a god-level elixir of perfect quality so that her mother's body can be restored to a state of perfect health. Xianxia's mouth suddenly twitched when he saw his daughter's alchemy technique. He was sure that his daughter did not have a master when she started to make alchemy. The technique of alchemy was not taught by any master. He did not know that there was such an alchemist in Tianqian continent. The alchemist just threw the herbs into the pot and started making pills. Even if he is not an alchemist, he still knows that medicinal materials must be refined into categories and then fused. There are more than 20 medicinal materials that my daughter took out, leaving only cloudgrass, and the others were thrown in. He does not doubt the success rate of his daughter's alchemy, but how strong is his daughter's mental power? He finally understood that his daughter's ability to achieve such achievements and learn so many skills was absolutely directly related to her mental strength. It is impossible to control the refining of so many medicinal materials at the same time, which is impossible if the mental strength is weak. Looking at his wife in his arms, he frowned. His daughter was now starting to make elixirs, and his wife seemed to have a quarter of an hour before the injection. Did she have to take the injection by herself? He never thought that his daughter could refine the elixir within a quarter of an hour. He couldn't disturb his daughter. He could only wait, thinking that his daughter should know what she was doing and would remind him how to start the needle when the time was up. At this moment, he saw black water overflowing from the place where the needle was applied on his wife's body. He remained motionless. This position was just right for the black water to flow onto the table. Miraculously, some of the black water flowed through my wife's skin without being stained at all, and it all fell on the table. But the daughter did not let her skin touch the black water. Obviously the black water is poisonous, otherwise it would not be so dark. Xianxia knew that after his wife recovered, he would have to talk to her about what was going on. Why didn't he know that his wife was still poisoned? Now it is better to do what his daughter told him. Xianxia used his spiritual power. Whenever the black water came to the table, he would put the black water on the ground. For safety reasons, he kept the black water farther away and worried about the impact. To make elixirs for my daughter. The black water stopped flowing not long after. Xianxia checked the surroundings carefully and found that there was indeed no black water left, so he breathed a sigh of relief. The incense fell on the alchemy, and he knew that the black water was gone without even looking back. With a flick of his hand, a flame fell on the place where his father threw the black water, burning the ground blackened by the black water, and the ground returned to its original color. Xianxia was speechless. He was still able to concentrate on his movements while refining the elixir. His daughter's mental strength was indeed not very strong. Xianxia glanced at his wife's face, which was already rosy, and her health was obviously improving. It would be better if he took the recovery pill refined by his daughter. Only then did Xianxia really feel relieved. This time it's no problem even letting him use the needle. But the time to acupuncture had not yet come. Xianxia smelled the fragrance of red pepper. When he looked up, he was stunned. It was refined so quickly that it has already entered the final step of condensing the elixir. Xianxia even suspected that he was dreaming. How evil is his daughter's talent in alchemy? Making alchemy is just like playing. He found that he was used to being surprised by his daughter. While he was still in shock, Xianxia patted the stone nest, and the lid of the stone nest opened, and a snow-white elixir rose up from the alchemy furnace. Xianxia's eyes narrowed. Not to mention the level of the elixir, the golden lines on the elixir were enough to shock him. This was a perfect quality elixir. Oh my God, no matter how calm Xianxia was, he couldn't do anything at this moment. Keep calm now. The elixir refined by his daughter was actually of perfect quality. Instantly, a sense of pride surged into his heart. Look, his concubine Xianxia's daughter was just amazing. This was the first god-level elixir of perfect quality that she had refined. Xianxia caught the elixir with satisfaction, put away the stone nest, and turned around to give her mother the needle. Xianxia looked at the elixir held casually in his daughter's hand, and the corner of his mouth twitched. It turned out that his daughter had measured the time so accurately, It was not bad at all. Yu Xianglue lifted the needles neatly, then checked her mother's pulse, and finally used her soul power to place it between her mother's eyebrows. When Yangxiang dropped her hand and took it back, Long Moran opened his eyes. Although the fragrance falls just a little, it is not something that any heavenly master can do. Only then can the soul fusion be completely completed. Yuan Chenjai looked at his wife excitedly, and Yan Xianglue reminded her father, "Dad, hurry up and find some clothes for my mother to wear." End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 689. Chapter 689 is happy. Only then did Chenjai realize that his wife had to take off her upper body clothes because she was going to give acupuncture. Long Moran also noticed that his upper body was naked, and his face suddenly turned red. She quickly turned around and nestled into her husband's arms, with her back to her daughter, covering her chest. Yan Xianglue was speechless. She had already seen the acupuncture she had just applied, and it was too late to be shy now. Yu Chenjai immediately found a set of his wife's clothes from his gift ring and put it on his wife. In recent years, his wife's health has been poor, and his daily necessities are all spared in his storage ring. After putting on his clothes, Long Moran felt that his body felt extremely comfortable. After feeling it carefully, a smile of surprise broke out on his face, and he said cheerfully, "I haven't felt this comfortable for many years." He Cheng's eyes were hot, with a crystal flashing in his eyes, and his wife's hand was tight. Over the years, although he has worked very hard, it is nothing compared to the pain of his wife. He suffers from physical pain every day and worries about his daughter in his heart, but he never says a word about his discomfort and endures it silently. In the past, he thought that his wife was only suffering from physical injuries, but he did not expect that she also suffered from spiritual injuries. This shows how painful her life has been in the past 6 years. It has been a long time since he saw his wife smile from the bottom of her heart. Yan Xianglue sighed inwardly when she saw her parents' reaction. They were still the same as when she was a child, not avoiding her at all when they were in love. "Mom, take the recovery pill first and recover completely. You should be able to break through and advance soon. Both your cultivation level and the heavenly master level will be promoted. Don't be anxious, come steadily. I have laid out the spirit gathering formation pattern here. Carve the mysterious pattern of isolation and we'll wait for you outside." Yan Xianglue interrupted the tenderness between her parents. Yu Chenjai immediately helped his wife sit up. "Ran'er, you have not stopped practicing these years. You must not be promoted to the first level. Hung Luoluo, we will wait for you outside." He has been with his wife all the time, so he naturally knows how hard she works. In the past, she lived for hard work. Now it seems that people should never give up their efforts at any time. Look, God still has eyes. No, the disaster is over. The good thing is also came. In the past 6 years, he has been forced by life not to slack off at all, and has made rapid breakthroughs. His wife originally had the same cultivation level as him, but now she still maintains the same level of cultivation as when she first came to the mainland. Fortunately, when I came to the higher continent, my wife broke through the 3rd level and has always been the 3rd level of the clan. But she was still far from her. She felt better after advancing to a few more levels today. Long Moran also hopes that he will be promoted more. Strength is so important here. In recent years, in order to protect himself and his son, her husband has worked hard, and she can see how difficult it is. She nodded. "Don't worry, go out and wait for me." As she spoke, she took the recovery pill handed over by her daughter. She must make good use of this opportunity. Even if her cultivation level will not improve much, she must improve her celestial master's strength. As a celestial master, she knows very well how important it is to have a higher celestial master level on this continent. Just as he was about to put the elixir into his mouth, Long Moran's eyes narrowed and he asked, "Luoluo, is this a god-level elixir?" She looked at the elixir in her hand and asked uncertainly. Xianxia was also stunned. He just saw that the elixir refined by his daughter was of perfect quality. He really didn't see it, but what level was it? Is it actually a level? A divinely perfect elixir? His eyes fell on the recovery pill in his wife's hand. It was not a god-level pill. As for why he knew, it was when he was bidding for medicinal materials for his wife at another auction, he saw someone auctioning a god-level elixir with such an aura. But it was not of perfect quality, and it was sold at a sky-high price. My daughter actually refined a god-level elixir of perfect quality in a quarter of an hour? The daughter is not only a miracle doctor but also a divine alchemist. Yes, the first god-level elixir of perfect quality, Yan Xiangloo said in a natural tone. Long Moran swallowed his saliva. It was such a luxury that he could actually take perfect quality god-level elixirs. I really enjoy the blessing of having a daughter. Now that your health is well, your cultivation can be improved, and your family is reunited. Is this the end of all the hardships? Tears fell down patter-like, and Yan Xiangloo's heart tightened. Mom, what's wrong? Before Long Moran could speak, Xianxia spoke. Your mother is happy. Our family has finally overcome the most difficult time. Yan Xiangloo felt relieved. It's time to be happy. After my mother is promoted, I will cook with my own hands and we can have a good time together. Okay, Long Moran choked in response, and then put the perfect quality god-level recovery pill into his mouth. The elixir slid down after entering her mouth. In an instant, she felt a warm current flowing to all parts of her body. Wherever the warm current went, she felt a sense of comfort that she had not experienced in many years. The daughter not only healed her physical injuries, but also restored her physical condition to its best condition. It can be said that it is even better than before she came to the higher continent. Luoluo's medical skills are indeed amazing, Long Moran said proudly. Yan Xiangloo smiled and said without any humility, that's right, I am a miracle doctor. Long Moran also smiled. It seems that mother has to work hard too, and she can't be left behind too much by her daughter. Well, come on, mother. Yan Xiangloo said the word come on from another world smoothly. Long Moran and Xianxia asked in unison, what does come on mean? Is it a word from another world? Only then did Yan Xiangloo realize that she had said words that her parents didn't know. She nodded and said, yes, it means encouragement. Oh, when you have time, Luoluo, tell us what that world is like and how Luoluo lives there, Long Moran said. Although she had sent her daughter's soul to another world, she didn't know the environment and family her daughter lived in. She only knew that her daughter would come back when she was 13. If she couldn't come back, then it means that the body left in this world has not passed the first level of Pangu flower blooming and has fallen. Hence, she is still very curious about her daughter's life in another world. Although she knew that her body would not be well with only one soul and one soul, but if she had a family who loved her, her one soul body could live happily for at least 13 years. Okay, although Yan Xiangloo felt that there was nothing to say about life in that world, since her parents wanted to know, let's talk about it. Let's go out first, Xianxia said to his wife. After taking the elixir, he could already feel the aura of promotion surging in his wife's body. She was about to break through. She also needed to sort out her mood and stabilize her state of mind. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 690. Chapter 690. I will marry your sister. Okay, Long Moran also knew that she was about to start advancing, so he didn't say anything more. The father and daughter walked out. Xianxia opened the door first and went out. Xiangloo walked behind. Before going out, he used his spiritual power to activate the spirit gathering array and the isolation mysterious pattern. Then he went out and closed the door. As soon as she turned around, she saw Xuanhuan and Xuanhuan outside the door, both looking at her intently. Xianxia then remembered that she had not formally introduced Xuanhuan to her father, and said quickly, "Dad, he is my fiancé Xuanhuan." Xianxia had known for a long time that Xuanhuan was his daughter's fiancé, and he knew it as soon as he learned about his daughter. Although he felt a little uncomfortable because his daughter was snatched away by a wolf called his son-in-law while he was away, he also knew that his daughter's temperament would not easily accept a man, especially a man who would be with her for the rest of her life. Therefore, he did not make things difficult for Xuanhuan. What's more, none of them accompanied their daughter when she was in the most difficult time. It was Xuanhuan who accompanied her all the way. Based on this alone, he can't do anything to Nan Xuanhuan, unless he does something bad to his daughter and hurts her. Xuanhuan quickly saluted and said, "Xuanhuan has met my father-in-law." Xianxia twitched the corner of his mouth, and he was really able to slap his nose on his face. He didn't embarrass him, and he even called his father-in-law. "It's a little early to call my father-in-law." No longer wants to embarrass Xuanhuan, Xianxia can't let him succeed like this. Xuanhuan seemed not to notice what Xianxia was thinking, and said naturally, "Xuanhuan has never met my mother, and my father left when I was 6 years old. Now with Luo's light, I can once again enjoy the days of being loved by my parents, inevitably a bit anxious." Xianxia has black lines all over his face, but he is quite good at flattering him. But, he is not a horse, so he is quite good at flattering him. Xianxia was also speechless. She didn't even know that Xuanhuan had such a side and was so thick-skinned. Well, yes, that's it. This was the first time she had seen him in a pleasing manner. Xianxia didn't know that the first person Xuanhuan wanted to please was not her father, but her, but she couldn't feel it when she was in it. Before Xianxia said anything, Xuanhuan became unhappy. "I haven't agreed to my sister marrying you yet." The implication is, why do you call me father-in-law? We haven't agreed to marry my sister to you yet. Xianxia laughed instantly when she saw the tone and look on her face that her brother and sister are from my family and don't want to be your wife. It seems really good to have a younger brother who protects my sister like this. Xuanhuan was not annoyed and said in a gentle tone, "Then what will happen before you agree to marry your sister to me?" Xuanhuan was stunned for a moment. This question was a bit difficult. He hadn't thought about it yet. In fact, he was unwilling to marry off his sister. He glanced at his sister, thinking that her sister should like her brother-in-law very much, and said in a somewhat unconfident voice, "Sister belongs to my family and does not go to other people's homes." He had been looking forward to seeing his sister for so many years, so why would she marry someone else? She would have to live in someone else's home. He hoped that his sister would always be at home and that the family of 4 would never be separated. "I can marry your sister, so your sister doesn't have to leave home," Xuanhuan said immediately. Concubine Onluo was stunned. "My brother-in-law married my sister? Is this still possible? If this is the case, my sister really doesn't have to leave home, and it's not impossible." Hearing this, Xianxia rolled his eyes at Xuanhuan. He also said such words. He Cheng was speechless. His son was still too tender, and he lost in 1 round. It was so easy to be fooled and the IQ was worrying. "I met you once when you were 6 years old." Xianxia quickly took over the words, fearing that his son would agree like this. Xuanhuan seemed not to see what his father-in-law meant, and said calmly, "Xuanhuan would also like to thank my father-in-law for helping me at that time." Xianxia looked at her father and then at Xuanhuan. Did her father and Xuanhuan meet before? After listening to Xuanhuan's words, his father even helped him? Logically speaking, my father had no chance to enter the palace at that time. How did he meet the 6-year-old Xuanhuan? Xuanhuan explained to Yu Xiangluo, when my father passed away, my brother started killing his brothers after he came to the throne. Because I was young and couldn't find a reason to kill me directly, so I was sent to the fiefdom. Fortunately, half the time someone arranged to kill me on the way. At that time, I only brought 6 of the hidden guards left by my father. The others were arranged by my brother and were also people who wanted to kill me on the way. The 6 of them protected me with their lives. I was very embarrassed at that time, waiting for the hidden guards to pick me up, and I happened to meet my father-in-law, who stayed with me until the hidden guards found me and then left. So that's it, the fragrance is clear. Xuanhuan never talked about his past. Although she also knew that it would not be easy for a 6-year-old child to survive murder after murder, she actually heard that he was killed by his brother when he lost his father when he was 6 years old. Even though he killed me, I still felt sorry for him. When Ruan Onluo heard that Xuanhuan had such a difficult time when he was a child, he was much more pitiful than him. He just had to practice hard and had his parents by his side. Xuanhuan had no parents and was still worried about his life. He felt a little sorry for him and felt that if he was willing to marry his sister, he could accept it. Your father helped me. I'm just helping you to repay your father's favor, Yu Xianxia said calmly. Yu Xiang was speechless. What is the fate of this? Xuanhuan's father is not the emperor. How did he help his father? Dad, it will take a long time for my mother to break through. Let's go over there and sit and wait. It just so happens that Dad also tells me about your and mother's experiences. Yan Xiangluo pointed to a stone table in the yard. This was originally a place where the prince studied. There are several stone tables in the courtyard, and chess boards are carved on the stone tables. It should be a place for playing chess. The 4 of them walked over and sat down. Changfeng and Gizmo did not follow them, but stood there waiting. After sitting down, Yan Xiangluo took out the tea set and used her own flame to make tea. Yan Xianxia was stunned for a moment when he looked at the tea set his daughter took out. Did Luoluo bring the tea set from home? Yuan Xiangluo said, I brought everything except the house. This is not true at all. Nothing can be taken away except the house. She really emptied the house. Pour tea for her father first, then Xuanhuan, then her brother, and finally herself. Wan Onluo looked at the teacup curiously. This was a teacup from a home in a lower continent that he had never been to. He could actually drink tea from the teacup at home, and the tea was made by his sister herself. In the past, he had often heard his parents talk about what happened between them and his sister at home. Took a small sip. Wow, it's so fragrant. The tea made by my sister is so delicious. Yu Xianxia smelled the aroma and knew that the tea was brewed very well. He also took a sip, but he still underestimated the taste of the tea. End of this chapter.